Hello and welcome to another episode of the CPMC podcast. I am MC, as always, joined by CP. Chris, I always ask how you're doing as we start these shows, but I got to get something off my chest today that's weighing so heavily right now that I need our listeners to hear this out.
I already know where it's going. I can't wait.
I know. I mean, we're coming off what I've called an apocalyptic week 9, so I'm all sorts of fired up for this show already tonight. Um, but my and again, we'll talk about it as we go through the show tonight. But my issues with the trading right now. I mean, the quarterback landscape is a mess. We were out of my 49 leagues, 16, I believe, Kirk Cousins shares, which is a lot. Another dozen or so Matthew Stafford. So the quarterback landscape is a mess right now. That being said, if you are a non-contender, don't be hoarding Baker Mayfield, Zach Wilson, was Jimmy Garoppolo, Mac Jones, and holding them ransom. Baker Mayfield is not a first. If somebody offers you a second, early, mid, late for Baker Mayfield, take it. If somebody offers you a third for Zach Wilson, take it. If somebody offers you a fourth for Gardner Minshew, take it. If somebody flips you a few free agency bucks for Taylor Heineke, take it. You don't need to hold people hostage and get to the point where you're stuck with these guys on your roster that offer no value going forward. I mean, I've been pulling my hair out the past 2 weeks. I was hoping when I went to sleep on last night that I'd wake up and the quarterback landscape would be perfect heading into week 10. It seems like it's worse somehow with all these buys.
Well, the strange thing is like, to your point, I mean, we've been getting these weird counter offers. Like, all right, I mean, if you think Baker is like the future in Tampa, newsflash, he's not. He's not the future anywhere. Um, that's fine. But if you get offered a second and you're not going to take that from a contender, don't come back and ask for the contenders first. He's never going to give that because he can go out and go get, you know, a Derek Carr for a first, who's just a better longer term option. I mean, he can go get a better quarterback for that first rather than, pay you for Baker Mayfield or what have you. All these guys, like Zach Wilson, may not have value in 2 weeks, let alone next year. I mean, if you're getting offered a third for him, you got to take it. Um, it's just the outlandish sort of counter offers that we've been seeing is really like it's almost frustrating. In jest I texted you, but it was only half in jest. I want to quit fantasy. I mean, it's like what part of the fun is like working out trades and stuff, but when people come with these like ridiculous offers, it makes the hobby like not fun. I mean, it's like crazy. Like you're never gonna do these things. I mean, you texted me earlier, and this is the state of where we are. Should we go out and get, Tommy DeVito? Is that even his name? I mean, did they pull this guy out of the stands? You texted me that earlier. I'm like, no. I mean, we don't need to get him. We would just play somebody else in Superflex. I mean, I think that's what these teams that were and we cannot be the only ones. I refuse to believe that we're the only ones in this situation. These teams that are countering us. I think I just don't understand. I mean, we can just play our eighth best position player in the super flex and score more points, than what we're looking to get back from a quarterback. It's like it's crazy, and people don't take that into account. Thankfully, Matt, we're here tonight to make deals on this in this league and set everybody straight.
Yeah, I mean, this is where we're going to have our fun. With other people's teams, other people's rosters. This is the only place we can get deals done, as fiction as they may be tonight. I mean, I'm going to leave here feeling relieved. This is therapeutic for us, to be able to do something like this. I don't know, man. I literally just looked at a text right now. I believe Mac Jones is worth a first plus. Let me know what you think. He's not. I said,
He's
I'm not going to give you my third for Mac Jones. He's not good now. He's not the future. I'm not giving it. And then I just got another one before we got on the show. Somebody wanted AJ Brown for Jared Goff. Like, no, man. I'll put AJ Brown at Superflex.
yeah, it's crazy. I mean, specifically about Mac Jones. I mean, people want him replaced already in New England. Like he's not good. I mean, he's not the future there. He's going to be a journeyman backup probably for the rest of his career. You're basically praying that he has one season somewhere along the way of what Baker Mayfield is doing right now. Like it's you're that's his upside. Mac Jones is like to have a career like Derek Carr, find somewhere he can go to make it work for a couple seasons and call it a day. I mean, but come on, this is crazy talk.
Drives me nuts. Let's have our fun here, Chris. We're going to start at the bottom of the standings here, 3 and 15, third in Seagram's. Work our way all the way up to the current number one ranked team, and we're just going to do our contender pretender. Our favorite thing to do here. This is how we got started by teams just not knowing what they were, and teams, that we, in our leagues have no clue what they are. The 500 points behind like third place. But because they're like eighth place or something in 2 games out of sixth, they think they're a contender. You're not a contender, man. If you're in eighth, drop yourself to 10th, 11th, get a top 3 pick, and just improve yourself for the future. I mean, I'm losing my mind already, Chris. Let's get into this now.
It's going to be a great show.
It's going to be a phenomenal show. We've got third in Seagrams. We got Gardner Minshew, James Cook, Kelly, Rondale Moore, Bateman, Cooper, Ferguson, Downs, Bellinger. We got Dalton Schultz at Superflex. Guys on the bench worth a mention. Really nobody. We got Khalil Herbert, I guess, coming back pretty soon. Maybe that's worth mentioning. Isaiah Likely had a couple of catches this week as well. Anthony Richardson on injured reserve. He's got 3 firsts going forward, Chris. That's good news for this team. He's clearly going a certain way with this team, but we're going to harp on this point. Gardner Minshew cannot be on this roster right now. Absolutely cannot. Take what you can get. Amari Cooper should not be on this roster. Go get a first for him. That's fine, right? Hold out for a first for a guy like Amari Cooper. I'm not selling him for a second. Josh Kelly's getting, more touches than he probably deserves. Go ahead and flip him. Other than that, there's not a whole lot going on here. James Cook's value is going to be a little bit lower right now. They're just not loving him the way they were, at least at the beginning of the year. I think they're going with that formula of Josh Allen, go ahead and do something with the ball 65 times. It's not exactly working as they sit at 500 right now, I think, or 5-4. Anyway, Chris, sell whatever you can here.
Yeah, I mean it's clearly a pretender, right? But listen, we've got the 3 firsts, like you said. I would still look to move James Cook off a good game. You may have missed your window there. Listen, as our Cowboy fandom suggests, I really like Jake Ferguson as a potential actual future piece here. I don't know if he's simply a stopgap for Dallas, but man, he looks really really good, and I think he could be a guy you plug in here for the next 3 years as you're building this thing out. That said, if somebody's going to come along and offer you a nice deal for Jake Ferguson, who I think maybe is like a top 5 tight end right now, which is kind of crazy, and although maybe not crazy the way tight ends are right this season, but I mean he's been great, especially the last few weeks. So if somebody's going to come along and offer you something for him, I would sell him too. Same thing with Dalton Schultz coming off this big game. I'm with you. I'm holding out for a first for Cooper. If I can get a third for some needy team for Gardner Minshew, I'm doing that all day. And then I'm waiting to kind of sell James Cook. This team's headed in the right direction. He can afford to kind of take some shots on younger guys if somebody wants to buy an Amari Cooper or somebody like that. Or even, I see Jamal Williams down here, Khalil Herbert, guys like that. If somebody wants to kind of give you a lottery ticket flyer for them, that's the kind of thing you want to do.
Yeah, I do like this team going forward, Chris, with Anthony Richardson and whoever he does get at the likely 101 this year. I think that's going to be a nice little duo to build around going forward. So, yeah, we're at a pretender right now, Chris. It's not going to amount to much for this year, but I do like where he's going. for the future. Let's talk about Weller Oiled Machine, currently in 11th with a 4-14 record. Just a game, very bottom heavy here, Chris. Three teams at 4-14.
Yeah.
Let's look at Weller Oiled Machine. We got Lamar Jackson, Kenny Gainwell, Al Jair, Adam Thielen, Wandale Robinson, Cooper Kupp, Dallas Goedert, Rashee Rice, Hunter Henry, and we've got Russ Wilson. Guys on the bench, Cam Akers, his career's done.
Done.
Shut it down. It
Yep.
just never really happened, which is unfortunate because he was a supreme talent. He really was. Who else here? Smith and Jigba down here. Logan Thomas, Kate Otten had a great week this past week. A few extra seconds kicking around, extra third or so. I'm going to go pretender here, Chris. There's some decent pieces here, but this is going to be a more fruitful teardown, in my opinion, right? There's a lot of pieces that we can sell off here. Russ Wilson, Cooper Kupp, and Adam Thielen, just to name a few. I hope he didn't miss the Adam Thielen window. Obviously, had a little bit of a down week this past week. I'm not worried about him. If I'm a contender, I'm buying him all day long. There should be a market for him out there. Cooper Kupp, same story there with him. So there's a few pieces, Chris, that should get you back some decent slices of the pie to build this thing going forward. And Chris, Rashee Rice, I'm in on him.
Oh, big time in on Rashee Rice. I like what he's doing there. He seems to be the only trustworthy Kansas City wide receiver. I wish he would get a little more volume. The Kansas City offense is very, very strange right now. I don't know what to make of it. They're just not sort of the explosive offense we're used to. Boy, they sure could use a guy like Tyreek Hill, huh? But I do like Rashee Rice going forward. I think he's a nice piece for this team. This team, I'm with you. This team has some pieces that can bring back, I think, a fair bit of value. I'm going to build around Lamar Jackson. I'm going to build around Rashee Rice. I'm going to keep those guys intact. Um, you know, Other than that, and Jackson Smith and Jigba, obviously, I think those are probably your three building blocks. But I'm happy to flip a guy like Cup. Whether I get a first or a younger wide receiver, I'm either way, I'm fine with that. Adam Thielen, I don't think anybody's paying a first as great as he is. I mean, come on, you're not going to get a first, but I think you can get like a second, or a young wide receiver back in return who maybe hasn't popped yet. And I think that's worth doing. Running back, you're not going to be able to sell much there. Danny Dimes, I mean, talk about, trash. I mean, he's been awful, absolutely awful, and injured. I don't know what you're going to get for him. Maybe you kind of have to hang on to him, see if something develops there. I try and flip Russell Wilson as well for a younger quarterback. Maybe buy back some years there. Russell Wilson's been really good. I mean, he's been a top 15 quarterback. I think that does hold value, especially, as we said, how bad the quarterback landscape is. So, I mean, we've got pieces here that we can sell. We've just got to get active and got to get back picks and younger players for them.
Yeah, with only one first in tow here, I don't see this team being relevant really next year unless we're able to flip a bunch of 1-for-2s and take a few shots, Chris. So I think you're right there. Let's tear this thing down all the way down to the studs. This is a pretender for me as well, Chris. Let's move up here to the white Roshans here, where we've got Josh Allen, Roshan Johnson, Rashad White, Elijah Moore, Quentin Johnston, Christian Watson, Okonkwo, Trey Palmer, Mac Hollins, and Taylor Heineke. Guys on the bench, we've got, what are we calling him? Badgent. I'm not even giving him the time of day. Zach Wilson. Oh boy, Chris, I'm about to go in on this team in a big way. And it's through no fault of his own. This is a me problem. Bob Woods, Odell Beckham, Braxton Berrios was useful at the beginning of the year. Foster Moreau, Irv Smith, Juwan Johnson, my guy. All right, nice. He's got a couple extra firsts, an extra second, a bunch of extra fourth, an extra 25 first as well. All right, we're going in the right direction here. We've got to keep going. We absolutely have to keep going. I'm talking about Heineke. Take anything you can right now. The Chicago guy, you should have already got rid of him. Zach Wilson, you've got to get rid of him as well. Oh man, I mean Rashad White, Chris. I just offered in our league that we're absolutely loaded in. I offered J.K. Dobbins and a second for Rashad White. I don't think that's a bad offer. I think it's in the ballpark, depending on what you think J.K. Dobbins is going to be. But it's an immediate reject from a guy in last place. We're in first, and the guy's got no counter.
Yeah, I don't know what to make of Rashad White, to be honest. I don't think he's any sort of elite talent or anything. He's got good opportunity right now. I think he's the only game in town. Baker tends to dump it off. He's getting that receiving share. I think 20 carries for 73 yards is not exactly a great yards per carry there. Not exactly efficient. I would be fine moving. I would be fine moving off of him. I definitely, if I could get a late first from a contender, I'm all over that for Rashad White. And I think that's fair, to your point, I think Dobbins plus a second basically equals a late first as far as I'm concerned. So I think that was a fair offer. I mean, he's the number 11 running back overall in the season. I'd be okay moving him, and I like where this team is headed too, Matt. I don't want to dissuade that. Quentin Johnson, Christian Watson, Drake London, Josh Allen. I mean, that's very, very solid, I think, to build around those four guys. You are going to need those wide receivers to hit, which they haven't yet, but I think that's fine. I think, and then you've got these extra picks as well. So I like the direction this team's headed. It's a pretender this year for sure. And now we've just got to move off these guys that are not going to help us when we hit our stride as a contender. So it's a pretender for now. Get off these guys while you can. Get what you can for them, especially while their value is fairly high in Rashad White especially, and keep going here. I think this team's headed in the right direction.
Yeah, I do like the build, Chris. I do like with what he's got going on here. But yeah, there's just guys on this team that shouldn't be there, period. Right. And especially when it's a relatively competitive back end of the table, the standings right now. Anything you can get, right? I mean, imagine being able to not start a point scoring quarterback at Superflex. Imagine replacing Heineke, Wilson, and Badgett with I don't know, one of these scrubs down here at Demario Davis, Robert Woods, Odell Beckham, although he scored a little bit this past week. But man, get off those quarterbacks. Don't even give yourself an option to start those guys. Um, Chris, let's move up to our final 4-14 team here. Our number 9, Whiskey Stoned here. Whiskey Stone sitting at 4-14. We've got Will Levis, Jerick McKinnon, Josh Jacobs, Juju, Jacoby Myers, George Pickens, Tyler Higbee, Tyler Boyd, DJ Chark, and Mac Mittens here. Mac Jones. Guys on the bench, Desmond Ritter. I mean, his career is over before it even started. Jimmy Garoppolo, Kyron Williams. Devontae Parker's out for a bit here. We've got Powell who caught that touchdown this past week. Hayden Hurst, Cody Parkinson, guys like that. Injured reserve has a whole bunch of nothing past Mike Williams. We've got an extra first. Chris, I like what these teams at the bottom are doing. Seem to be in a really good spot with those extra firsts. This league's obviously going to be very top heavy because this is not a good
Yeah.
team either. This is a pretender. I think talent wise, we've taken a step in the right direction, but it's kind of just like a team destined for the middle for a while here. So I want to tear this thing down as much as possible. I'm starting with Jacoby Myers.
Yeah, agreed there, Matt. This does look like a team that is, has no real upside. He can't ever be a contender with this squad right now. But we do have Josh Jacobs here, who we can, I think, get quite a bit for still. I think you're looking at maybe a late first plus a little extra, plus a little sweetener for Josh Jacobs. I know everyone has been sour on him for 2.5 years at this point, but the volume's there. He did score 2 touchdowns last week, so he's going to get those goal line carries as well. Between him and Myers, I do think you have a couple decent pieces there that you can move on from. Mac Jones, obviously, if somebody's desperate at quarterback. Kyron Williams, I think, is interesting too. He's got him on the bench right now, and Kyron Williams is set to come back week 12. They've already announced that they're expecting him back week 12, ready to play. And the Rams backfield is a disaster with my boy Royce Freeman and Darrell Henderson there. So Kyron Williams back, I think could be a nice boost to a contending team. And I think it'll only take a second. And if I'm a contending team, I think I do that. I give up the second pretty easy. And if if I'm this team, I take that second as well for Kyron Williams. So I think it could be a deal that gets done in maybe a week or so. But yeah, I mean, again, with a team, he's got an extra first. We can wait for the right deal for Josh Jacobs and get another couple pieces. But that's it. We've just got to keep building with this team. It looks like we may have a hit here in Will Levis, which is nice. We may have missed on Mac Jones, but we've got Will Levis at least, who looks very, very good. One good game, one not so good game, but looks like he's got the arm talent at least to be an NFL quarterback. So I think we just keep moving with this team, keep moving forward.
Did you watch any of the Titans game this past? I think they played on Thursday.
It wasn't great.
It's my first time really seeing him play, Chris. It's as if he thinks he's out there by himself just doing passing drills. There's all sorts of action behind him, and he just stands there. And, the announcers were talking about that being great poise. It wasn't great poise. He got sacked like 18 times or something like that, and just throwing missiles all over the place because he couldn't get a good throw off. Just guys at his feet. It was kind of hysterical. I'm like, does this guy move at all? Um, anyway,
I'm here for the missiles. That's all I know.
that's all I know. All right, we're moving up a little bit here, Chris. Our number 8 team here is sitting at 6-12. Beam me up, Scotchy. We got CJ Stroud, who went absolutely nuclear this past week. Jerome Ford, Keontae Ingram was a big bust this week, big time. Devontae Adams, Garrett Wilson, Van Jefferson, Trey McBride, AJ Dillon, Mike Gesicki, and we've got Jalen Hyatt at Superflex. Tannehill sitting here on the bench. We got Josh Dobbs. Oh, baby. Kyler Murray coming in as well. Dalvin Cook, a little bit of a disappointment this year. We got Bobo sitting here on the bench. Cortland Sutton, Deebo Samuel, Evan Ingram. This is an interesting team here, Chris. Darren Waller, James Conner. I'll say this, Chris. If this team makes the playoffs, look out. Darren Waller could get healthy soon. I was not expecting him to end up on the injured reserve with that hammy. James Conner is back soon, I think, as well. He's got his first still in his pocket. This team could be okay going forward, Chris. We don't really. Oh man, this is going to be my first tough one, Chris. Just to avoid going chalk, I'm going to say contender here. This team's going to be downright scary in a few weeks.
Oh man, 6-12 is tough. I mean, if he was 8-10, Matt, I'd feel better. 6-12, it's tough. I do, man.
He's got to make up 3 games.
Yeah,
And again, I know we were harping on that earlier. He's well behind in points here.
but
But I
it's
like this
trending.
team.
It's trending up. I mean, no doubt about it. It is trending up here. We got Kyler coming back. We have Dobbs as well. Oh man. You know what, Matt? I'm gonna go with you here. I'm gonna go contender. Let's do it. Let's ride with CJ Stroud here and Devontae Adams, Garrett Wilson, Jerome Ford. Why not? That said, I'm not gonna go. I'm not gonna go crazy buying somebody here. I'm not gonna give my first in case this thing gets sour on me. But if I can give up, my third, fourth, fifth, what I have here, and maybe some small sort of like maybe like a Jalen Hyatt type piece or something like that, and get a little, get a guy like Thielen, somebody who could help me out a little bit. That's a move I'd be okay with, something like that. But I'm not going to go crazy and sell my first. This is a team that's just the trades. This team doesn't make trades because he's getting all these guys back from injury. That's essentially his trading, right? So it's trending upward for sure. I can't believe I'm saying this on a 6-12 team, but yeah, I'm gonna go contender as well. I like what he's doing here. It's trending upward and kind of scary.
I mean, let's picture Ingram instead of Gesicki at that flex spot. Let's picture Kyler instead of Hyatt. Let's get Van Jefferson out of there and put in Deebo Samuel. Keontae Ingram will get him out of there, put in AJ Dillon. And then we've got Cortland Sutton in that AJ Dillon spot. So, this thing reads a whole lot better if we're saying Stroud,
Yeah.
Ford, Dillon, Adams, Wilson, Deebo, McBride, Sutton, who did I just say there and forget? Engram and Kyler Murray. That's not a bad read right there, Chris.
It's not bad at all. It's not bad at all. This team's got to go on a run. I don't know what his schedule looks like. He's got a high points against as well, so I'm guessing he had a tough schedule. But man, if he can go on a run, I'm with you.
All right, what has he got this week? Just real quick, let's take a peek. What's this? This the Jim Beam. Look at he's got
Yeah.
3-15 Seagrams this week. What has he got next week? Real quick. I won't go through everything, but what has he got next week? Oh my, he got 4-14 whiskey stoned.
All right,
Chris.
so he's got to. I mean, he's got to go 4-0 these next 2 weeks. If he goes 4-0, he's up to 10-12, and now we're cooking.
Oh man, I'm here for it. I want to hear how this guy does next couple of weeks. All right, let's talk about our number 7 team, 8-10, overboard and on the rocks. We got Sam Howell, Bijan Robinson, Brees Hall, Jamar Chase, Addison, Jahan Dotson. He's on fire lately. TJ Hawkinson, Gus the Bus. We've got Mingo at flex, Bryce Young at super flex. We got Tommy DeVito here, Chris. That's nice to see. Deshaun Watson. I think you could comfortably put him in your lineups right now. Alexander Madison. He's going to be the only game in town back there
Yeah.
in Minnesota. I actually like him rest of the season, Chris. I think he's going to run with a chip on his shoulder the rest of the way. Najee Harris. Who else down here? Nothing else. Kadarius Toney, what a bust he is, man. I'm done with him. And that's about it. He's got no first going forward. Chris, I actually do like this team, man. I'm going to say a contender because I think if this team just gets a bounce his way, I mean, could Bijan Robinson just figure out what's going on? I think there's just enough here. This may be a team that I don't even know if there's that many moves to make here, Chris. I think between Madison and Najee Harris, somewhere in this lineup, I think it's good. I don't know if it's like a win the title contender, but it's hey, I could make the playoffs and be a son of a gun to get out.
Yeah, I'm gonna go pretender, Matt. I am. I think there's just too many. I think your evaluation's fair. I think our definition of contender is a little different. I'm looking for teams that can make a splash in the playoffs, and I just don't see it with this team. Sam Howell, Bijan Robinson, Brees Hall, even Jordan Addison, Jahan Dotson. I mean, these guys are so boom or bust that I just can't trust them for more than one game in the playoffs. Maybe this team makes the playoffs and wins you a game, but I think it's going to be peaks and valleys for this team for the remainder of the season. Throw Najee Harris in that bucket as well. Bryce Young, or Deshaun Watson. I'm out on both those guys this season. I don't think they're going to be great. But I think the future is very, very bright for this team. It's a very young team. It's ultra talented. I don't think this is the year. I'm going to call this team a pretender, but I think next year's team could be legitimately great.
Yeah, I would say this team is stupid young, Chris. I think it's heading in the right direction despite not having that first. I'm going to throw something at you here, though, Chris. With this team, and I know we haven't seen him yet, so the other team's not going to do this. With this team, would you give up Bryce Young for like Tyreek Hill? I think that's a fair offer. If the circumstances were different, we haven't seen Ty Hill yet. But with this team, would you do something like that to get another hammer to put you over the top?
Immediately. I mean, Ty Hill, absolutely immediately. That I would trade almost anything for Ty Hill right now. That guy's insane. I don't think you could get that from a Ty Hill, but the Ty Hill owners are always at the top. And I don't recall a player of the teams we've seen below this one that is in sort of that hammer category that you could trade Bryce Young for, to be honest with you.
I mean, maybe it's just give up Mingo for Adam Thielen, something like
Yeah.
that.
Or Mingo in a third, whatever, what have you. Yeah, I'd be fine with something like that.
All right, let's move on here to our number 6 team, sitting at 9-9, dead smack in the middle. We got whiskey on the Brox here. We got O'Connell, Jalen Warren, Jonathan Taylor, Jalen Waddle, Demario Douglas, Deontay Johnson, Kyle Pitts. We got Reed, Dell, and Nico. Brock Purdy and Jared Goff, and we got Lawrence as well on the bench. A lot of firepower here on the bench. We've got Javonte Williams worth a mention, Keaton Mitchell. I don't know what to make of him, man. Everyone's throwing him on the block, I think, for real good reason, trying to capitalize. Calvin Ridley, Traylon Burks, Gerald Everett, John New, J.K. Dobbins sitting here on injured reserve. First couple extra set or a couple seconds to go along. Oh man, Chris, I'm gonna reverse course here and go pretender with this team. This is just this is not a scary team at all. I'm not worried about this team if I ever had to play it in the playoffs.
Yeah, he's got Devin and Shane as well on IR. So I mean, you could put him in the lineup in a week or two. This team is just kind of treading water here at 9-9. I think that's fine. I'm going to disagree with you here, and I'm actually going to go contender. I like the quarterback duo that he has on the bench in Goff and Lawrence. He's got Jonathan Taylor, who's coming into his own. Jalen Waddle, Deontay Johnson. We've got other guys on the bench. Maybe there's a couple holes, but I like what he's got at the top, especially if with Devin and Shane coming back. So I think I think this team is a contender once it gets healthy. I think it just needs to continue to tread water. If he can do that, get his full squad healthy, get through these bye weeks, and find his way into the playoffs, I'd be scared to play it. I think he's got, I just think he's got a lot of high ceiling players, which can win you playoff games.
I don't know, man. I'm trying to think. Obviously put two new quarterbacks in, pick and choose who you want. And then when you look on the bench here, you're going to throw Javonte Williams in here for Jalen Warren here. And then after that, Ridley's been, up and down. I mean, I'm not trusting him in a lineup. Obviously, you're going to throw him in here. Everett, John, who's been, rock solid, obviously. And then what? We're going to throw a Shane in here? I don't know. I'm taking that 6-10 team over this team, I think, at the moment.
Yeah, well, I mean, we're going to throw a Shane in there. We're going to move Nico Collins up to one of those flex spots. We get out Jaden Reed and Tank Dell. We get out Jalen Warren. Get out, if my last flex spot is my worry, I can figure that out. I think it's close. I mean, I think the last two teams are both, fringe pretenders, which is why we're disagreeing on them. But I like this team a tiny bit better just because I think it's got more upside. I think the ceiling on this team is very, very high.
All right, Chris, we're going to sign off for a moment. Normally we do just 6 teams on part one, then another 6 teams on part two. So we did a little extra here on part one. So it means a 5-team show coming up in part two. But we're going to sign off on this first show, Chris, as I was just offered in a league where I need a quarterback. I am in first place. I lost Cousins. I'm up by like 300 points over the next guy. I was offered Zach Wilson and a third for Amari Cooper.
Jesus. It's unbelievable.
I give Amari, I get Zach in a third. Decline.
Yeah. I mean, come on.
What are we doing? Oh, now, oh God, I was starting to cool off a little bit, but now
what is even the over under on Zach Wilson starting the remainder of these games in the season? I mean, like they could reasonably bench him. They could sign Mike White off the street and reasonably bench Zach Wilson like tomorrow. I mean, he's so bad.
if they were to bring Mike White back, it would reinvigorate that fan base. They'd forget about Aaron Rodgers and his sewn together Achilles right now if they brought Mike White back in. Yeah, I mean, listen, Zach Wilson stinks out loud now, and he's not the answer. It's not like he's lit the place on fire and he's gonna have a job next week. I'd rather come full circle here and get Tommy DeVito off of waivers and fire him up this week. Oh man. All right, let's stop for right now. We'll be back in a little bit.